And we're live.
Cool. Do you want to do an introduction?
No, feel free to do it while I close my tab.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Hello. All right. So yeah, Marco's been working on migrating. I think you actually merged it, haven't you?
Yes, last week.
What was it? The fork button?
Yeah.
Over into Vue.js. So trying to get myself back up to speed with GitLab again, I started migrating the star button, also on that page, over to Vue.js because that's still in Haml at the moment. It was fairly straightforward to get the button in there. However, I had to do some poking around with a new GraphQL mutation, which I'd completely forgotten how to do. So last week, Lee pointed me in the right direction of why it might not be working. And after that, I've managed to get it to basically function. So I wanted to go through the code changes that I've done and just do a sanity check to see if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll probably split this out into a couple of merge requests. One to add the GraphQL migration as its own thing, and then a second merge request to actually swap the button around to Vue.js.
And that's just to explain why we need to do that is because when we release to production, we could, since it's not all the same services, the service is replicated around the world. If a service gets updated on for the front end, but it's still using the older version of the backend, it would basically break the application because the backend isn't there yet. So we split it up into multiple MRs because we basically want to first get the backend done and deployed, and then get the front end so that we don't have those issues when deploying to production.
Yeah, and that's generally done over 2 minor releases, I think. So like 16.4 and for the back end, and then 16.5 for the front end.
Yeah.
There are some changes where you have to do it in major versions, but this should be fine with the minor one.
Yeah, major version is only for breaking changes, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, this mutation could be marked as experimental, I guess, as well, but I don't know if that's going to be really necessary.
Yeah, one possible workaround would be to use a feature flag so that you can keep everything in the same MR. But yeah, that's not really worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so I started this off basically the same as what you did with this init forks button. I've got the init view star count. Will say now that I actually want to have a look at changing this. When I was implementing the button, I was reading some of the handbook pages, and what we're doing here is like really bad from a performance point of view, having 3 separate Vue apps just for these different things.
Yes.
Once this star count is done, I think the 3 of these components are all actually next to each other visually. So I think it'd be quite easy to actually combine them into a single Vue app and then get rid of the 3 separate ones and just call the Vue components independently. But that would be a follow-on after migrating this, I think.
And there's also another thing that we could do. I mean, it wasn't an issue for the first button because I didn't use any GraphQL in there, but the front end team is also trying to keep the number of Apollo clients low. So if we were creating 3 different Vue applications with 3 different Apollo clients, they would be we should try to keep them to use the least amount of Apollo clients as possible, so share it across the applications.
Yeah, definitely. So in it, the view star counter. This is the component. It's pretty straightforward. There's a few things I need to get rid of here. The project ID I don't think is used. So starred, whether or not the component, whether or not the project's been starred by yourself, the number of people that have starred the project, and are we still waiting something from the back end? At the moment, this isn't used because it's all coming through from the HAML. So potentially remove that now and add it back in again in the future. But I think that's a pretty minor thing. Couple of computed props here. Whether or not to show the filled in star or the outline star, and what text to say as well. Set the status. So this is where when you click on it, it will do the GraphQL mutation, passing in the project path and the opposite of the starred thing. So if it's currently starred, unstar it, and if it's unstarred, star it. All of this can be removed. All of that's irrelevant. The component itself is pretty basic. There's a button with an icon and the star or unstar text, and then a second button which shows the number of stars and a link to the stars path, which I think just shows you who has starred it. I haven't actually been to this page. Yeah, so just shows you who starred that project. So yeah, it's just two buttons side by side in a button group. Pretty straightforward. Then we have the actual, nope, sorry, this is the init thingy. So this is the view app. Again, there's a few things I can remove off here, and ideally would remove this completely at some point. Don't think there's anything special going on here. Passing in the Apollo provider because I am using GraphQL in this, and then replacing instances of the view star count container with the view app. Seem normal so far?
Yes.
Cool. And then the last thing on the front end is obviously removing everything from the HAML and just adding in an empty div with the props being passed through. So yeah, so from the front end point of view, I think that makes sense to me. Obviously, there's the cleanup there that needs to happen, but I don't think there's anything outlandish there. Does that seem sensible to you, Marco?
Yeah, that looks all right. Have you already created the specs for that?
Say again?
Have you already created the specs for that?
No, so there's no tests written at the moment. Last week, I was just actually getting it work. Last week I was getting it working with the back end. Because I'd written the mutation, but whenever I was trying to call it, it kept throwing errors, and it's because I hadn't actually mounted the mutation in the GraphQL thing, which is where Lee pointed me towards. So from the GraphQL mutation point of view, again, it's pretty small, but I don't know if this is the correct place to be doing this kind of logic, or if I should be moving it out to somewhere else. You pass in the project path and the Boolean for whether or not you want to star it or not. Then you load in the project. I am checking to see whether so the current the user model only has a toggle star property or method. it doesn't have a star and unstar property. So I actually have to check if they, or what the state of the current starred thing is and what is being passed in. And if they're different, then toggle the starring status for that user.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to return any errors there as well?
What errors would be returned?
Well, like,
If you're not authorized, I guess.
Yeah, that's one thing that I would suggest is to use the authorized find to make sure that the user has actually access to the project.
Yeah, I did pull in authorized resource. That's what I was doing originally, but it didn't work for some reason, and I can't remember why now. Or maybe it was working, but it was because I didn't have this here. Yeah, definitely should be checking if the user's authorized, and error if they're not. Were there any other errors you were thinking of? Sorry.
I thought more along the lines of on line 34. I thought you usually had to return the object, but then also errors. So after line 34, also return an errors object.
Ah, right. Just as part of the
Yeah.
like every response. Okay.
At least that's how I set
Like-
up other GraphQL mutations. So I could be wrong here. I'm not sure.
Just like that, you mean? Or would it
Yeah,
be
but in an array, yeah,
an empty array?
that's right.
Okay.
And then I've seen in some other mutations, sometimes, yeah, they return either the empty array if it's a success, or have another alternate if it's not a success, to return like whatever project.reload.starCount.errors.full error message, something like that. You'd have to figure out where the error messages actually are, but that would be a question I have.
Could it be that the toggle star method errors out? I mean, put that between a try catch and make sure that, I mean, we could have a look at the REST API maybe and see how they do it there.
For the starring and unstarring.
Yeah, to see if they're handling some kind of error.
Yep, no, that all makes sense. Thank you for that. And then this last bit as well, I'm not completely happy with this, but I'm also not sure if this is actually the right way of doing it. So obviously, if you toggle the star state of yourself, then the project count will either increment or decrement by 1.
Yeah.
So before, like up here, I could cache the current star count and then modify it within here. Doing project reload is obviously going to do an extra database query to fetch all the information. Sorry?
At least one?
Yeah. But doing reload would mean that if anyone else starred or unstarred the project whilst you were starring and unstarring the project as well, you'd get the latest star count. I don't know if that's really necessary.
Yeah.
How accurate does the star count actually have to be? And do we really care?
I mean, that's probably another thing that you could have a look at the REST endpoint, how they are doing it, if they return the new count.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, the count field returned by the GraphQL mutation. Can it be a number, or is there a reason why is it just?
Yeah. No reason why it's a string. I think I just copy pasted it and haven't changed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Does the REST endpoint return the
What is it called? Toggle star.
Does the star count actually show the current star count? If you're just looking at the page statically and someone else stars it, does it show and reload automatically, or will it only show the updated count once you refresh?
So at the moment, it will only update that when you refresh.
Mhm.
I mean, if I unstar it now, it refreshes because the REST
Right.
endpoint
Yeah.
returns the number as well. But yeah, it doesn't update real time. Moving these over to GraphQL means that at some point we'll be able to do subscriptions. But I believe there's an issue, like performance issue, with using subscriptions on GitLab. There's just too many people, basically.
I just had a quick look at the REST API, and they are, after calling toggle star for the user, they are calling project.reset. So I think that's similar to reload.
Was it reset, sorry, or refresh?
Reset.
I don't think there is reset in Ruby.
Oh.
Maybe they have defined this method somewhere on the project object in the code.
There's actually a comment 4 years ago: forbid the use of reload and prefer reset.
Reset.
Okay.
The reload makes to load old objects into memory, and the main purpose of reload is to drop the association cache. The reset seems to solve exactly that case.
Okay, if the REST one's doing a reset, then yeah, I'll stick with that. It's basically doing the same kind of thing though, by the sounds of it.
I think so.
Okay, I think let me just clamp these. Yeah, that's it from the mutation. The actual GraphQL call, yeah, passing the project path, passing the starred state, and then just get the count back from it. So there's nothing exciting in the GraphQL file.
Yeah, that's looking good to me.
Cool. All right, that's all I wanted to go through. Thank you, everyone.
I mean, you still have to have fun writing the specs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first one's going to be splitting out that mutation, get that fixed up and just write some specs for that. And then, yeah, hopefully the front end specs are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the start button should be, it doesn't have any kind of intricate logic to call to do one thing or the other. It's pretty straightforward. So you should be, those specs should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Does it display a star and a count? And if you toggle it, does it change the number and the thingy, the text?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Cool. All right. I'll poke around that over this week then.
Yeah, found
Did
something.
you want to go on with, was it housekeeping you said you wanted to do next, or?
Yeah, since we don't really have anything in our hands right now, Lee mentioned that we could try and do some housekeeping, maybe have a look at some quick wins and see if they're missing implementation plan and maybe provide it. And I know, Ed, that if we do start that, we basically stop at the first one because time goes. So I share my screen then so we can have a look. You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Zoom bar, go away. Okay. So these are the issues on the GitLab project. So let's filter by quick win, label, quick win. Any preference, backend, frontend?
Backend.
Backend, okay. Label is backend. All right. How do I do that? Just a second. Okay, better. So just let's sort it. Let's try with popularity. API to list all files in a project. And this is 3 years old. We have an endpoint for uploading a file to a project. The moment just create action is implemented. It's not possible to list all available files. So
Are they after a REST endpoint there, guessing?
Yeah, this is a REST endpoint to get the list of files of a project. So the implementation plan is there. And I think, yeah, upload a file, get the users list. Yeah, I mean, they should be relatively straightforward because there should already be a service to list the files of a project. Oh, if we start going down that rabbit hole, then. So there's the
Hang on a second. Upload. What's an upload?
to upload a file to a project.
Didn't know you could do that. I'm having a look at the REST API now, and there's a
Oh no, these are the
repository.
No, I think this is not for the repository. It's the attachments.
Oh, like an attachment to a release.
Project API. Uploads a file to the specified project to be used in an issue or merge request description or comment. No, it's the actual files that you can attach when leaving a comment or creating an issue, a description. So there's the API to upload it, but there's no API to get the list of all the uploads. Oh, this is tricky though, because you would be, you could even get the list of files to issues or comments that you might not be supposed to look if they're confidential. So this could be tricky.
Do they give a reason of why they want this?
So far, it seems like we don't have a UI to manage uploads. We still have to validate which user this feature would be useful. So no, they don't
Yeah.
provide our reason. Oh,
There's also that discussion maybe that has information.
yeah, I was going to have a look. So we found that we don't have an endpoints list already. It was not requested by a user. Before start working on it, we should figure out if that's something we actually want to support. Okay.
Don't need a way to list them, just to download them.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Oh, one of the comments on there, a bit further up. Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, Tim.
I
Don't need a way to list the files. That would be fine. Just need a way to download them.
Well, in theory, you want, after you have the path to the file, you have the URL and you can download it. So that wouldn't be an issue. But still, getting the URL to one of those files, if they're confidential or stuff like that, that's going to be an issue. Let's see what happened 6 months ago. What you from this here? It's blocking. Oh, so someone was already working on this. Oh yeah, there's an assignee. So there, let's see if there's any MR related. Oh yeah. User project, uploads. Yeah, so someone already started working on this. There's not any real point in having a look.
On that issue search,
Yeah.
can you do assignee as none?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we cut out 30 plus issues, so that's good. So I do remember this one because I had a look to create at this issue before. So it's basically requesting, as we have the possibility to create a Kubernetes cluster from the UI for Google Cloud Platform. They were, or with Terraform, I don't remember. So they basically want to be able to provide an Azure Kubernetes. So there's proposal for a Terraform-based pattern. Create an example project, create the documentation, integrate with the UI. This is, it's missing some implementation planning, maybe. but I'm not really sure how we could provide it. So someone here wanted to have a look. It's actually been merged. So this is almost complete. It's only missing the UI, it looks like, because the documentation is there.
Does that need assigning to someone then, or have they done that merge and then dropped off?
I think they merged this and then dropped off.
Oh, it's only a month ago, so maybe.
Yeah. Winky, and yeah, it's this the same user. Yeah, they're already working on this. I don't think there's anything else to do in here. Maybe only update the description to mention that the example project and the documentation are already taken care of.
Is it worth assigning that to, was it Winking?
I would ask, because they mentioned that they didn't want to steal it from nobody. So let's just ask and see. Winkies.
Who did that merge request though in the end?
Winkies.
Yeah.
Well, just leave it like this and see what the answer.
You've just got a little typo, I think, has been taken care of instead of queso.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Add additional front-end validation and error messages on the new release page. What is this?
Gotta jump
What's
off.
that deprecated label?
Nice to
Oh.
see you. I've got to jump off.
Bye.
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 Sorry, what did you say, Andrew?
There's a label there marked as deprecated except in merge requests. What's the replacement for it? Does it say?
I think it's the combination of quick win and seeking community contributions, but they're also deprecating seeking community contributions. So I would just remove this one. Yeah, ready for development. So there should be an implementation plan. Well, this is detailed. So let's remove this one. And when creating a new release using the new release page, it's possible to fill out the form without validation errors. Oh, okay. There's only a generic error and there's no specific one. Proposal, we should add front-end validation that lines up with the existing broken validation or update the backend to send a validation code. Okay. Is this really a quick win? Let's see if there's some discussion. Is an issue from there. It's also a quite old one. And this had quite a lot of discussion 2 years ago. Hmm. And then stop. So they.
Okay. I was just reading up on that label deprecation then. Yeah. That's odd.
Okay.
So what was this one saying? Add additional front-end validation and error messages.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of stuff to do in here because there's been a lot of discussion from the team, but this would mean basically change the backend and the front end, like the backend to return an error code based on the actual error and then handle that on the front end. But I also saw that they started migrating the page over to GraphQL. So maybe the validation could be, well, doing the validation on the backend would be better. So I'm not really sure this is a quick win because there's a lot of stuff to do.
Can you see who
Marco,
added the
just
quick
one
win label?
question.
Yeah.
In this case, the validation needs to be in backend and frontend as well, or once I do it in backend, frontend is not necessary anymore.
I think at least the backend should be done because if you go use the mutation to create, like if we are going to use it via API, be it REST API or GraphQL mutation, if you don't have any validation in there, the user could use the GraphQL or REST endpoint and skip all the validation, and that could not be good. So at least on the backend, the front end should handle any potential error returned by the backend, but also provide some validation. For example, the tag name that should be valid. That's something that we can check on the front end even before we do it on the backend.
Yeah.
But yeah, this, I think this.
I think it's a huge task.
It's.
Can you see who added the quick win and why? Maybe.
Yeah, good point. Let's have a look. Oh, GitLab bot added the quick win. When we changed the
low hanging fruit.
Yeah, So
Let me see if I did low hanging fruit then.
yeah. Oh. 2 years ago. I think the long hanging fruit approach would be to display the tag name is invalid message and link to a Git documentation. Okay, but yeah, I think this is not a low hanging fruit or quick win. Or rather, I would like the team to have a better look and provide a better implementation plan.
Mhm.
And
I think this is. Yeah, I think one, it shouldn't have had the low hanging fruit, but then yeah, obviously GitLab bot has just gone and replaced low hanging fruit with quick win labels.
yes,
Probably not a legit one.
yeah, I would runner. So no, let's see. This is on group environments. Who's the PM for group environments? The PM, is it really? The environment group? Isn't this the release group? I am confused now because something changed. CD section, deploy stage. Wasn't there a release group?
I can never remember. There are groups and there's the other one, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, there, because there's the stage, so the release stage, and that's okay. But like, where is it? Come on. I saw it before.
Yeah, there's a release group. Environments group. No, it's been renamed. Yeah.
Oh, that's been renamed. Okay, so the PM is Victor.
Yeah. I just did a search for GitLab release group, and the release group page redirects to the environments groups now.
Oh, okay. So let's ping. Where was it? Here. All right. Is it correct English? Yeah. Does this look all right to you?
You've got a random colon on the third line after, yep, just there.
No, that there's a I'm starting a list. There is some work to do on the back end and front end, potentially
Okay.
some changes have been made.
Just after that, you've got back end, a front end.
Oh, right.
That's fine.
Okay. And I'm actually almost at the time for now, for today. I don't know if we have time to have a look at another one. These are all quite old, actually. What's this? Terraform include policy checks from Terraform plan in MRs. If a user has Sentinel policies enabled, Terraform Cloud will check whether Terraform plan obeys the policy to determine whether they can be applied. I don't know how to use Terraform, so this is totally something that it's not for me to have a look at.
Yeah, Terraform is one of those things I've been meaning to look into.
Yeah, me too, but we only have 24 hours a day.
Very true.
So having said that, good for you to call it a day for today.
Yeah.
At least we had a look at a couple of issues.
Thank you for running that, Marco.
Sorry for not having found any good quick win for you, Oksana. But I do have another list of quick wins if you want to.
Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, we will find something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard to find something to do on GitLab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So then let's go. Happy to have you seen everyone again this week. Next week, it will be the 15th of August. Will it be a holiday for you as well or not?
Not for me in Europe, no.
Oh, really? It's only an Italian thing. Okay, that's good then. Well, okay. So next week, I am pretty sure I won't be here, but there's going to be someone else. So glad to see you again. And thank you for joining.
Thank you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.